What is up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, loan officers, real estate agents, clients, friends, family? Hope you're doing well. My name is Sean Grapevine. I'm Vice President of Strategy here at UMortgage, and I am generally joined by my co-host, Mr. Matt, the mortgage guy, Gougé of YouTube fame. There he is. Oh my gosh. As if on command, my lips to God's ears. Here he is, the man himself. Look at us. We are just resplendent in purple today.
Just rocking purple, celebrating a great month of May at UMortgage. And so, yeah, I don't know what prompted me to pull this out of the closet this morning, but purple seemed to be the play this morning.
Yeah, it looks great. It looks great. Matt and I are fresh on the tail end of our best month ever here at UMortgage. $250 million in loans funded. He did half, I did the other half, so no big deal. JK, it was a team effort, but between hundreds of loan officers, the best in the country, and really proud to say that over 30% of those were VA loans. I don't think you can say that for more than 3 or 4 other lenders that are at our level or doing more volume. Yeah, can't say about 3 or maybe 3 more lenders in the country are doing anything like that. And they are all ripping veterans off. So really proud to offer veterans a fantastic deal and to offer it to a lot of them. Matt, today we're going to talk about, guess what? We're going to talk about the market, talk about mortgage rates. We're going to talk about the Fed. We're going to talk about inflation. And I'd also like to talk about serving veterans. It's something that has just been such an important piece of who UMortgage has become. Sort of like it's something that's, I feel like, grown organically here in the UMortgage community. VA loan is a fantastic loan, but we've really just kind of coalesced around making sure we're serving those who served, and it's really added a ton of like benefit and additional cause and to like, I think the loan officers' lives here, where like we're actually doing something meaningful for a meaningful group of people. Not to say that an FHA buyer isn't a meaningful person, but it's been really cool. Have you seen your VA sort of volume and interest go up over the last few years?
Yeah, you know what? It's kind of funny. It's like anything else in life, who you surround yourself with, and just having a couple conversations with Patton really fired me up to help serve veterans, because he's got all the data. He's really entrenched in that community, and he can tell you crazy stuff like how many veterans don't even know they're entitled to a loan. How many veterans go out and get an FHA or conventional loan because they just didn't know. Nobody asked them, "Hey, did you serve?"
I mean, their loan officers may not even know. And worse, the real estate community, I think, is slowly being educated on this, but I think the mortgage community has done a bad job of educating the real estate community that these are not difficult loans, they're not hard loans, they're not less likely to close, they don't have a lower appraisals. But you'll see like listing agents will just straight up be like, "Oh, we don't accept VA loan officers," or VA loan offers rather, which is just so sad to me.
Right. Well, and I think you're 100% correct. The onus is on us. The onus is on us to learn and get better so that we can spread the message. Because my own journey as a loan officer, you learn new things all the time. And you start to learn, hey, you don't necessarily need a clear, a pest one inspection, then the clearance. You can just get the termite company to sign this form. I don't remember the exact numbers on the form, right? That just says no active infestation. And you tell a real estate agent that 99.9% of the time, the first time that they've ever heard it. So now they know it for the next time. Maybe somebody in their office hears it from them, and then they say, hey, I heard that you can just get this form in lieu of, a cleared pest. Can we do that on this kind of thing? Little things like that.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
I literally learned that probably 7 years into my career, 3 years ago. And so, there's no shame on any loan officer that doesn't understand it, but I think we're doing, everybody, all consumers a disservice if we don't study, learn, and get better so that we can serve better. And then we've got to also help educate the whole real estate community. So for sure, that, along with the fact that certain companies out there that have huge marketing budgets, write 15% of VA loans, they are notoriously the worst priced and the worst deal for the veterans.
Well, not only that, they do a poor job of actually closing the loans, which is what gives the VA loan a bad rap, where it's like, oh no, it's actually just bad people doing a good loan, not not good people doing a bad loan. It's pretty great. I mean, you wouldn't know this by the way they're talked about, but VA loans have a lower decline rate than any other loan type, including conventional, FHA, USDA, jumbo. They're declined less frequently. They have a lower default rate. Once the person's actually in the loan, they're less likely to default on the loan. And the appraisals come in 3 to 4% higher than appraisals across the rest of the product spectrum, which people don't really know. And Matt, tell us about what happens when they do come in low.
That's the thing too. Even if they do come in low, you get to invoke Tidewater, which that's another thing. It's like a learning lesson. If you're not in the trenches and you're not doing VA loans, you don't know the little tricks that could be the difference between a veteran getting a home and not. But long story short, they invoke this Tidewater where you can say, hey, VA, I think that this house is actually worth this amount, even though the appraiser brought it in at here. And without even having the appraiser involved, they can go, yep, seems legit, sounds good, and sign off on it. That's, a really generic explanation of it. That's essentially what it is. And there's no such thing on a conventional loan, FHA loan. You come in 20 grand light, you have this appraisal reconsideration process where 95 out of 100 times the appraiser comes back and go, I'm not going to admit I was wrong.
It was a pride thing. It's exactly a pride thing at that point. I mean, it's so rare, for them to be like, you know what, I was wrong. I agree. And I agree that it's great that you actually go to the VA for the reconsideration of value. And that brings me to my next point of why they're great is that the VA loan is the only loan that exists to try to find ways to put its targeted demographic into loans. FHA guidelines, conventional guidelines, those are designed to keep people, will keep a certain amount of people in and a certain amount of people out, right? Like if you have less than the required credit score on a conventional loan, you can't have it. There's no getting around it. There is no minimum credit score on VA loans. And I can't tell you the amount of times where I've had an underwriter tell me like, hey, I can't approve this loan because of this issue. And I call the VA and the VA says, actually, we're happy to override that. Like, let's find a way for this veteran to get a home. And they override it and they put it in writing and I provide it to the underwriter. And the underwriter's like, great. I mean, the VA is the one who's underwriting this, like who's essentially at the end of the day are the people who are insuring this loan. So if they're okay with it and they want to put a veteran in a home, like who are they, the underwriters?
Yeah. So. And I think I want to put the cherry on the top for VA loans because it's a phenomenal loan. If you've earned the right to be able to use your VA loan entitlement, get a VA loan, you absolutely, at the very least, need to look into it. You should use it. But the cherry on the top with all that is they're trying to get veterans in homes. So they're trying to make it work. And then people might say, well, it's 100% financing and, no credit score minimum. These things probably default 30%. They don't because they're phenomenal loans with lower interest rates, no mortgage insurance, even though 100% of it's financed. And so they're phenomenal loans. I can't say enough about it. And honestly, like I've got this new inspiration because we have the number one VA lender in the country, Pat and Gade, kind of leading the charge, right? Like that's the thing. These guys are rubbing off on me. Jimmy, Patton, others at UMortgage doing VA loans, and realizing the coolest story that I've ever told about mortgage, and I'll do the shortened version for us here, Sean, is helping a 57-year-old veteran who never thought he would buy a house. And title agent, realtor, Dave Denny, the buyer, love this guy, and myself, all four of us crying at the table because he stopped in the middle of signing loan documents and he stood up on the table and he just was taking deep breaths and looking down. I said, Dave, you all right, man? Never thought I'd buy a house, Matt. Never thought this day would be here. And so we all shed a good tear, dude. It was the coolest experience as a loan officer. Like we talk about record May, it was 717 families that we affected, right? And so we have an impact on, creating life-changing opportunity through home ownership. A quick add-on to that story, tons of equity was built in that house. He was able to do a cash-out refinance, lower his rate in 2020, and buy a business.
No way.
He was able to retire, at 60. He doesn't want to be remodeling bathrooms anymore. So he's a bar owner, cafe owner. That money to fund that business came from home equity of a home he bought with his VA entitlement. Like the story is one of my fondest stories from mortgage on how like you truly do create life-changing opportunity through home ownership. And in this case, it happens to be a veteran.
I love that. I love every single bit of that. Yeah, I see like something I've seen on Facebook that I like want to find cheesy, but every time I see it, I'm like motivated and I like thump my chest. Is like, it's anybody saying like they won't accept a VA loan because there's no down payment. It's like these people's down payment is literally like 4 to 40 years of serving our country in the military. It's like, that should be good enough. Like we should give them the benefit of the doubt. Like, thank you. I didn't do it. So glad somebody did. Whew. That was a great way to start, man.
That was a great way to start too. We're both long-winded, and yesterday I was looking up. My wife and I were curious, like how tall was my grandfather? And so we're looking up a bunch of old Army stuff of his, where he was a Army pilot.
No way. That was my grandfather. What did he fly?
You know what? Don't know the answer to that. Okay. But with all those pictures and papers and all stuff my wife has collected, I'm gonna find out for you.
Thank you.
But he flew planes, and then he had like these big CB radios at his house where he could, talk to his friends in Japan from his house here in Sacramento, California. But anyway, it was the fun way to learn that my grandpa was 67 inches, which is 5'7". A lot of not so tall people on my side of the family. So my son's loving basketball, Sean. I don't know if the Gougé family is built for basketball.
Hey man, you might have the next Muggsy Bogues, next Nate
Robinson. Yep.
Won the dunk contest.
I think my son is already taller than both those guys. So that's
there good. You go. Mike Bibby, Trae Young. I'm just naming.
Bibby's probably 6'1", dude.
Yeah, it's short. I'm just kidding. I'm not 6'1".
What are we talking about? Mortgage?
So let's talk about practice. Let's talk about mortgages. Let's talk about last week. Last week, let me pull up my notes here. Good week as far as like news goes for rates. We kind of have 2 weeks to catch up on, but mostly everything has just sort of like calmed down, equalized. The rate markets are liking that. I'm sure you've seen rates this morning are looking pretty tasty compared to what they've been at. I think one of the big numbers from last week is the Case-Shiller index up 7%. So housing prices up 7% year over year in the 20 biggest metro areas. I mean, it's insane. That's so much in such a high rate environment. It's crazy.
Right. And if people missed that, like all the talk about higher interest rates are killing demand, home prices are going to fall. Like home prices went up year over year, near 7%. Like I agree with a lot of people that are like, man, we're stretched. Like affordability is the thing. I get it, right? But to expect some big shift where home prices are 20 to 30% less, like you can't expect that to happen. Like the data doesn't show it, right? In the highest interest rate environment we've seen in
the Fed
years,
would have to raise rates another 3%.
Right. Yeah. If we're at 11%, we might see 20% home price depreciation.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. You still don't know. People got to live somewhere, it turns out. GDP from Q1 last week was revised down. So it originally came in at like 1.6%, which everybody was like, oh, thank God it's a little bit lower. And then there's these series of revisions. And so it was revised down to 1.3%. So showing more signs of cooling of the economy, which is what the Fed is trying to enact from high interest rates. So that was kind of a good sign, I guess, depending on what sort of sicko you are. And then PCE, the Fed's preferred measure of inflation last week, came in at 2.7% for core, and for the regular PCE, this is just like CPI for those of you keeping track at home. It's just like annoyingly similar. And so 2.7, I mean, that's like, whether or not the thing is, like, do you think that the formula is representative of what the average American feels? I think most people would say it's a little bit off. As far as, is this the number that the Fed's paying attention to? That answer is yes. And 2.7 it's only 0.7 away. Got some math skills here for you. It's only 0.7 away from 2%, which is what the Fed's going for. So more good news there, which kind of brings us to the next topic, which is chances of a Fed interest rate reduction. If we want to pull that up on the screen here.
Good old Fed Watch, baby.
Dude, I love this tool. If you just look up CME Fed Watch tool, just Google that. I don't even go to the website. I just type that in like an old man every Monday.
It's like sports betting analytics for mortgage nerds.
I love it. I love it. And so up here it shows the next Fed meeting. Or the next Fed meetings. And then up in the top right, it shows the percentage chance, according to how traders have been trading, that traders think there will be a easing, no change, or hike in interest rates. There's one dude out there living in fantasy land.
That means
representing 0.1% here, who thinks that there may be an interest rate reduction in the June meeting. That's June 12th, 9 days from now. I feel like we just had one. Didn't we?
Just be having these all the time, bro.
How did you and Jay did the last one together?
We did do the last one, yeah. And
how was it without me?
You know what? It wasn't the same. Jay is a great dude. I love Jay. Me and Jay had a lot of fun. There's only one Sean Grapevine in the world.
That's right. There's literally only one Sean Grapevine. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. There's other Matt Gougés, but they spell it the same, pronounce it different. Long story. One thing I want to say here, because like stats are one thing, and I think that like looking at stats is important. For me, as a guy who like kind of breezes by the data, but then just uses real world, like what are people saying? How many applications am I getting? How busy am I in my personal mortgage business? You know what's one thing I've kind of come to learn, Sean?
What's that, Matt?
People are used to higher interest rates, and there's a lot of things that are more important than rate. Like numbers can't solve, you know what? We're growing out of this house. You know what? I want to be closer to my parents. You know what? We need to move closer to the, kid's school he's going to, and we're moving in 84-year-old mother. And so we need something with an ADU or a mother-in-law quarters. All these reasons. Last week, quick humble brag, I submitted 7 loans, and I looked at them because I wanted to find the story in every loan. And none of the stories were like, based on interest rate projections and based on this.
This is like a great investment. Yeah.
All of them were like,
nobody's really thinking that way.
I've got life happening, so I'm going to buy. Let me talk to a mortgage advisor who can help me structure this in a way that makes sense for me with all this information, right? So this information is secondary to life events that cause, move, change, buy, all that other stuff. And so I think it's important for people to keep that in mind. We look at this stuff because a lot of people are going to move like kind of irregardless of where rates and prices are at. We use this to help you. You know what? Rates are projected to go down in the next couple of years. Let's not spend a bunch on a permanent buy down. Maybe you do a temporary buy down. Maybe you take a slightly higher rate and tell yourself that, the $180 a month I'm going to spend more on payment, I'm going to save $7,000 up front and not buy it down because I don't think I'm going to be in this loan for 3+ years. Things like that.
I couldn't agree with you more. And in fact, I think these tools now more than ever are helpful to show that we don't know what we don't know. I mean, what did this look like? What did this 18th of September chart look like 3 months ago? I mean, we were celebrating. I mean, right now, 50% of people think there will be one easing. So only 50% of people think there will be only one easing, right? If we would have looked at this, let's say January, right? We would have seen there would have been another bar to the left, maybe 2 bars that showed an interest rate reduction of a full percent and people being pretty smack dab, we think interest rates are going to be so much better. And you know what? If anybody had waited on that, I feel awful. These traders don't know any. I mean, they're just reading the tea leaves, and you can't plan based around what you think's going to happen. Here's the thing: I always used to tell people when clients used to ask me "Hey, do you think rates are going to go up or down?" I had 2 answers. One was I think they're going to go up or down. I would say whatever I think, and I was like, but I'm wrong literally 100% of the time. And then also, if I knew which direction rates were going to go, I wouldn't be a loan officer. I would be on a yacht somewhere. Anybody who actually knows what directions rates are going and when they're going to do it, that's a skill that literally nobody has. And if they did, they'd be making billions of dollars in the futures market. So, I think these go to show as we continue to look at them and they change wildly from week to week. It's nobody knows. You can say this though. Rates aren't going to go down anytime soon. And we don't even know if they will go down.
That's a good point. That's something that I wanted to help kind of bring home for everybody is if you're listening to this and you're like, all right, fancy charts, some guys that look at the market every day. Can you just tell me what it's going to look like in 2025? Like Sean said, I don't have a crystal ball, so I don't know. But this changed drastically from 5 or 6 cuts and rates coming down a lot faster than we're actually seeing in real time. I'm looking at Fannie Mae's interest rate prediction, Sean. It's the latest one they put out. Mm-hmm. And this should kind of hammer home for people. Oh my gosh, when you say higher for longer, when you say they're not coming down as fast.
What's Fannie Mae say?
I wonder if it's not going to zoom in on it. But
tell us.
Q2, 3, and 4 for this year. 7.1, 7.1, 7%. So literally flat for the rest of 24. And then I'll go through the 4 quarters of 25, 6.9, 6.8, 6.7, 6.6.
So reduction, but not really.
Very slow, very minimal. If you told somebody rates are going to be 6.6 the end of 25, it would probably help some people be like, you know what? My whole idea of waiting for rates to come down, maybe I should table that idea. Maybe I should just go buy something at 7% that I can get today and, let home ownership, home price appreciation, the power of time in real estate work its magic, worry about refinancing when the time comes.
Well, I was looking at the historical interest rates of the average home buyer from when it started being recorded until now by Freddie Mac, by the government. And if you had waited in 1971 when rates were at 7.7%, do you know when you would have waited until if you were to wait until rates go down?
Well, I know people would have, died for a rate that low in the early 80s when my parents bought their house. So it definitely wasn't any time before. I'm going to say it might have been 1990 before rates got back to that.
July 1993.
Wow. So you only have to wait 22 years.
Yeah.
Waiting's a good plan.
I mean, and that people were they were actually waiting.
Yeah. And this too, to put some context and some real life into it, I talk to these people and I genuinely feel bad for somebody's like, you know what? My uncle was like, don't do it. And then this led to that. And they look up and 10 years later, they're like, oh my gosh, if I only would have bought in 2014. And for some, it's never too late, but man, what did you miss out on in the last 10 years? You don't just look at it and go, I spent this money on rent and times it by 12, and that's how much you spend per year. Because you do, like, you're going to have a payment for a place to live no matter what, rent,
Sure.
buy. But like the opportunity cost, the lost depreciation, the lost debt pay down, I'm looking at a lot of scenarios, a lot of simulations, Sean, where, okay, renting might be a better financial decision if you only look out 24 to 36 months. But most of us are going to live longer than that. So you want to set your projections a little bit longer when you're doing long-term financial planning. And you look at 5, 10, 20 years, owning a home, like the math doesn't lie. It's the better long-term play.
100%. And we're not just saying that because we're loan officers. We want you to buy a house even if you're buying with cash. Even if you're, I hate to say it, well, you should definitely use a UMortgage LO.
I mean, I root for people, even the people that use different loan officers, because I'm like, I had conversations last week, Sean, where I'm like jumping out of my seat excited because I'm talking to somebody who's 24 and I know the power of time when it comes to owning appreciating assets. And like, this dude is getting a jump on so many others. If you don't own a home and you're 45, don't feel bad. Some people buy their first house in their 50s, but
yeah,
like
look at your boy, or your veteran guy, Dave.
Yeah, but my guy Dayton at 24, man, if he buys one piece of real estate just every 4 years for the next 20-year clip, and he's got 5 appreciating assets in California. You knock California, Sean, 6.9% year-over-year appreciation over the last 40 years. That's something.
I don't knock California.
Okay, good. Some people be knocking California.
I think I'm one of the few people that doesn't knock California. There's some specific areas of California, but I'm not going to hate on what would be the 9th largest economy in the world if it was its own country. So
God, we were 5th at one time. We're 9th.
I've just made that up. Maybe it could be 5th.
Have you heard the stat song about how they're most made up on the spot?
Yeah. More
That's
proof.
My favorite song.
More proof. Well, Matt, this week is Jobs Week in the market. So if you guys want to sound smart to your clients, whether you're a loan officer or a real estate agent, and also provide them with some of the context around what guides what, and also, I mean, I think that stat about 1971 and 1993 is a pretty telling one, and should have people, that should cause people to focus on the present, right? Rather than trying to read the crystal ball. Information about jobs. So the one thing that the Fed looks at besides inflation is jobs, and this is Jobs Week for the Bureau of Labor Statistics. So we're going to get our initial jobless claims on Thursday. We're going to get ADP employment. We're going to get job openings called JOLTS on Tuesday. ADP, the largest payroll provider in the country, reports its jobs openings, or creations rather, on Wednesday. And then on Friday, we get the U.S. employment report, which includes the unemployment rate. Unemployment went up last month to 3.9%, largely hailed as a success of the monetary tightening that the Fed does by raising interest rates. It in turn had a positive effect on interest rates. So I think a lot of people are waiting to see that happen 2 or 3 times before there's any level of celebration. So keep your eye on the news. It's really, really interesting. Matt, it's noon here. It's 9 there. Time for you to start your day. Time for me to start my afternoon. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your week. Looking forward to doing this again next week.
Thanks, brother. Can't wait to see you here next week for Fed Week, my man.
Yeah, I'll shoot you a text about what color t-shirt we should wear next week.
Okay. Yeah, let's coordinate for sure.
All right. See you, buddy.
Later,
thanks, everybody.